I mean, that's the thing about when you're a fan of a team. There's different emotions when you expect to win. It's galvanizing, but it's also like that empty pit. Like, man, what if we don't bring our A game? Then there's the us against the world mentality, and I'm kind of riding that high now as a Knicks fan. Like, let's go, just keep climbing. Why not? Why not keep going? And then there's the Nets, who are in a really unique space because I just mentioned the Knicks before. I mean, there has been more celebration over the Knicks garnering a top 4 home court Eastern Conference advantage than the Nets and their true chase of a championship. I mean, it's amazing. It's like it's almost a polar opposite. I mean, all the attention's on the Knicks, and here we are with the Nets with 3 of the 10, 12 best players in the entire NBA, maybe less than that. We'll see where this ride takes us, and the energy is not necessarily there in terms of coverage, though I'm sure as it deepens and the Knicks get bounced, it will intensify. Bottom line is this. You can tell me about Durant, you can tell me about James Harden, and they are. It's funny because if you said, now you and I have done this, pick the 2 most important players on the team. If you, based on the injuries, if you had to take 2 of the players, who would you take? Yeah. I've said I would take Harden and KD, and I'm pretty sure you've said no. You said Kyrie.
No,
didn't you say Kyrie?
No, neither one of us said Kyrie.
Okay.
We both said Harden and KD.
Oh, we asked Ryan Hollins. He said
That's
Kyrie.
Right. Yep.
Okay, you and I are on the same page with that, and it seems like a bit of a contradiction where, as much as we would take the other 2 players over Kyrie, if Kyrie's head is not snapped on properly, Nets ain't winning anything.
Yeah.
And this was a very interesting weekend for Kyrie Irving.
It was an interesting weekend because of some of the things that he said, and we'll get to that in a second. But, it feels like Kyrie has been distant for a lot of this season, even though he's balled. We mentioned this many times throughout the regular season, especially when KD was injured or back and playing off the bench, or when James Harden got hurt and it was basically just Kyrie and Joe Harris. It was like, man, Kyrie is playing out of his mind this season. But at the same time, it's felt like he's been like displaced from the team, if that makes any sense. Now, part of that's because he actually was, for parts of the season.
Yes.
Early on. Remember, he took the hiatus and he was gone for a little less than a week. And then he's had intermittent, I need to take a personal day here or there. And I think there's only been a couple of those, but still, it feels like there's something disconnected going on with Kyrie Irving and the game of basketball. And to be honest, BT, the comment he made yesterday was probably the first time I could pinpoint something that's distracting him. And I've met him once, but I don't really know him. But knowing him from afar, it kind of now makes sense why he's been so aloof with what's going on with this NBA season. And I think it's important to play the sound because it doesn't sound like a guy who's excited to go into the playoffs and, dialed in to winning a championship with now his boys, KD and James Harden, who they got in a trade from Houston. It doesn't sound like he's jazzed up to get this thing and get a ring for these guys.
It doesn't. And that would worry me if I'm the Nets because I'm giving him 40 million reasons to be jazzed up.
Yep.
Now again, it has not, his play has been
he's been great.
Unaffected. I mean, it's been his best season in large part. I'd say, not maybe the last 15 years.
Let me see if this is his highest PER of his career.
Okay, I would venture that it's either 1 or 2.
Yeah, it's
certainly not with Boston.
No, yeah. So PER of his career.
What did he finish at this year? 21.
This is 24.4. So it's a
higher
second.
than that.
It's a little. It probably dipped a little bit.
It did dip the last 15 games. It's actually
second or third. He actually had a higher PER last year, but I don't count that because he only played in 20 games.
Oh yeah, that doesn't count.
So you have to go back to 20. Actually, the Boston year, BT.
It was Boston.
It was in 2018, 2017-18. His PER was 25.
Okay, it's been a very unique ride with Kyrie Irving because when he left the Celtics, and I remember, and I've said this a few times, I remember listening to his introductory presser, not when not like when he was introduced to but the introduction press conference for camp with the Nets, his first camp, right? And he said, "Hey, I'm going to shield Kevin Durant. He's not playing this year. I'm going to be a leader. I've learned from my mistakes in Boston." I'm like, man, this kid, it clicked. He's a great talent, and now everything is lining up. Everything's aligning itself perfectly for him to be what Net fans want him to be. And then we've seen many starts and stops this year and some unexplainable things. This one's a little different though because I don't know how you disagree with what he says here. It's impossible to classify any of those comments as divisive. It's the exact opposite, or even unnecessary based on what is going on in the world and the places that he mentioned. The only thing that you debate is, do you want him inserting this before the playoffs?
Yeah, and the answer is it's probably no. But what else can he do? Right? This is what he feels, and this is who he is, and this is how he talks, and it's what's been going on in his mind all day. Now, with that being said, he's having one of the best years of his career. We just talked about the PER, but like above, his averages, he's above average in every single category, whether it's assists or even rebounds or points per game, his field goal percentage, his 3-point percentage, like everything. He's almost clicking on an elite level, and he's not even dialed in when it all comes down to it. The question, and I think this is one that really only matters, is this going to affect this Brooklyn Nets team in the postseason? And as much as I want to say yes, like when I first started to listen to this quote, BT, after Samson put it on Slack this morning, when I was listening to it, I was like, man, this is so irresponsible. Like leading up until the postseason, you got your first round in a few days, and like this is the last thing this team needs. But then I stopped and looked at what he had done this year, and it's like he's playing one of the best seasons of his career, and it's not like he's shielding this from the guys in the locker room. Maybe he was shielding it from the media and the people on the outside looking in, but KD, I'm sure, knows what's going on with him. James Harden, I'm sure, knows what's going on with him. Yep. Joe Harris and everybody else, Steve Nash, etc. Just no one has been talking about it. And so it hasn't affected this Nets team. They're the second best team in the East, and maybe arguably the best team in the East if they're fully healthy at any point throughout this season. So as you mentioned, 9 games they've only played together. So while I want to say it's irresponsible for him to take this stance right ahead of the postseason, I can't, because all season long he's managed it and played above himself all season long.
I'll tell you what, first of all, he just authored a 50-40-90 season. 50% from the field, 40% from downtown, 90% from the stripe. 9th person to do it ever in the history of the game.
That's right. All right? So, by the way, you know what I mean? Like, oh, by the way, this is what he did.
Yeah. So while everybody's getting triple doubles, and that stat's been watered down 9 times in NBA history, excuse me, has there been a 50-40-90? So that's number one. This is the first time where he's ventured away from basketball that I haven't been left frustrated by Kyrie Irving.
Makes sense.
Not once did I, and I mean when I first heard that, I was a little surprised the depth, a little surprised the timing, but as I listened to it several times in my office, and I closed my eyes and I just listened. I listened, and I said, all right, you've been hard on Kyrie, probably as hard as anybody that does what you and I do for a living. I've been hard on Kyrie for going AWOL, for being I've been hard on him. Do your job and check that at the door. Come in here and listen to this. And as I listened over and over, I couldn't bring myself to generate any sort of ill will or real issue with what first of all, what he said.
Yeah,
it's all coming from a good place.
That's right.
So that's number one. Number two, it was well thought out, and it's from his heart. Now the only way it could be a detriment, and I'm okay with it now, but like if they lose a game, and I forget about the first round, but as they get deeper and they're starting to play, like the Sixers, whomever, or the Lakers, if they get to the championship, and if the Lakers are there, whatever. But as they get deeper and the stakes get higher, if he's having one of these moments and he's conflicted and it's after a bad loss and the team needs a reinforcement of positivity or focus and it's diverted to world events not pertaining to basketball, that might be not divisive for the team because they know how Kyrie rolls and they're cool with it, but it wouldn't be a good look for the NBA.
Yeah.
You can't have one of your marquee stars during the finals or during the Eastern Conference Finals taking a pass on talking about the game that he gets paid $40 million a year to play.
Yeah, agreed.
Can't have that.
Yeah, we'll cross that one when we come to it for sure. But it was interesting sound for sure.
No doubt about it. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.